we, another interocean cosmic marine species of colonial refugees, emerge like mermaids from the sea. Saludos and welcome to the Rematriating Borikén Podcast, where we discuss the journey to the essence of these islands, this archipelago and her surrounding waters, the restoration of our essence before conquest and continued colonialism, the reclamation of our collective healing and liberation. I am Yasmín Hernández, creator of CucubaNación, artist, writer, activist, born and raised in Brooklyn, Rematriating Boriken. Hola. This episode will be a sharing of a recording of the Rematriating Borikén Manifesto that I was called to write when I was commemorating 5 years here on Borikén back in 2019. I had started to explore Boricua bioluminescence in 2009, 10 years before, with my first paintings inspired by a 2006 trip to the Bahía Bioluminescente in Vieques, and had been for that decade on and off creating paintings inspired by bioluminescence. After Hurricane Maria, I started working with bioluminescence in our skies, so the fireflies and cucubanos that we would see in those dark nights. Developed the CucubaNación project starting in 2018, but by the time I got to 2019, I was pulled again to another form of bioluminescence, and that was that of the Puerto Rico Trench, which is about 70 miles to the north of this archipelago, plummets down over 28,000 feet deep. It's the second deepest part of the Earth's crust. And so it's not something that I had ever considered. It's not something I ever thought about, but I felt a call to it aesthetically, symbolically, as a metaphor for how Puerto Rico is. We're told when we come here that we're crazy, right? And so the idea is that Puerto Rico, it's not sustainable. We can't sustain ourselves here. Like the way that it gets talked about, especially in post-Maria terms, is that it's almost uninhabitable, right? That the schools are closing, that the doctors are leaving, that the food is expensive, the food scarcity, the 85% of food imported, and no jobs to find that this is the narrative. This is the narrative that's sold, and what's focused on mostly is the exodus out. That's what the term that they use, exodus out. For me, I like the term exodus from how it's used in sort of like Rastafarian references back to Africa movements, that the exodus is returning, right? It's a return to your home, to your rightful home. And to me, the rightful home is not the colonizer. And so I was drawn to the Puerto Rico Trench as this perfect metaphor, because according to us up here on land, we need oxygen to breathe. We need the light of the sun for energy. And we couldn't be sustained 28,000 feet into the abyss, right? So by our standards, these are inhospitable conditions. These conditions are uninhabitable, unsustainable, yet there is life down there, and that life has adapted to shine its own light and survive and thrive. And so I channeled this manifesto, which I will share, and also created the first painting of myself and my children at the time that we arrived in May of 2014, when they were ages 2 and 5. And that becomes the first piece, which now is then expanding and growing into the Rematriating Borikén portrait series, visibilizing and highlighting others on this journey. And so Here is the Rematriating Borikén Manifesto. I sat down to record this today, March 28th, 2024. I'm editing the recording. When I get to the end of the recording, I state I recorded it on March 28th, 2022, exactly 2 years ago today. So just the cycles that we synchronize to, even without us knowing.
Rematriating Borikén Manifesto. We are a different kind of refugee, charco crossers of a different exodus. From crossroads and cross bays led to the sea in pursuit of tropical sunsets that warmed our ancestors' blood. The American dream that others covet has long been our Babylon. We set foot into frigid waters of the North Atlantic, spread across her sandbeds towards the abyss, past the tragic remains of our ancestors whose spirits stay knowing and glowing like cosmic beings in starry blackness. They bear witness to our journey, whisper wisdom wishes into our ears and spirits while we dodge barracudas and sharks. Still stinging, we untangle ourselves from the tentacles of jellyfish. We continue south, reversing migrations of our ancestors. Uncrossing charcos our parents, grandparents were forced to cross as babies, cradled in desperate arms, as children turned workforce. Survivors of genocide, we swam through fallopian tubes not yet tied, but soon to be cut. We set out with babies in tow in search of the violated womb because if we return to her, we can wage reciprocal healing. We wade, swim, swallow salt water whose currents still mark the roadmaps of our ancestors taken, our ancestors fleeing. We flee. Back to the place they tell us is uninhabitable. Back to the land of the ancestors they told us went extinct like dinosaurs, like it was an option. They omitted the parts of slavery, slaughter, and genocide from our books. Decimated souls call us back to the place the conquerors squeeze us out of and discourage us from returning to or staying in to make more room for the settlers. Crossing different sands submerged, we arrive at the trench, deepest, darkest stretch of the Atlantic. Mirrors the Mariana, deepest trench of the Pacific, deepest trench of the earth that stretches near the cluster of islands the same empire took. Ours opens at the place hurricanes enter, stretches across the northern shelf of the Antilles. They call it the Puerto Rico Trench, ancient majestic moat filled with sunless razor-fanged illuminated creatures. Dangerous site of seismic activity, seismic energy, taunting with earthquakes and tsunamis. Catastrophic crossroads at the climax of colonial capitalism and climate change. We descend a 28,000-foot depth to the place only a local knows. Orisha mystery of the seemingly infinite stretches of darkness of treasures and abundance found in the ocean's depths. We venture down into this unknown, scared shitless yet determined to answer the call, valiantly holding our breaths, navigating the maritime graves of our ancestors. Down in the darkness, we lose sight and are required to compensate with other senses, find other ways of seeing and being. The pressure squeezes our hearts out of our chests, worn on the outside as testament to our disjointed, displaced, disembodied history and humanity. We grow gills and scales, learn how to breathe through waters as we did in the womb. Our skin transforms translucent, our hearts glow bioluminescent, our blood pulses liquid light through our vessels. Like the creatures of the abyss, like the gases of nebulas reflecting colorful lights of stars, we expand electric, pulsing with the energy of our own currents. Shine our light to secure sustainable meals or to repel predators. We work with other bioluminescent organisms to expand our collective light. We repurpose venomous tentacles of abyss creatures as our weapons. We master the survival skills of symbiosis with creatures all around us, those of light, those of darkness, those that evoke wonder with their beauty and evoke fear with their fierceness. We continue onward with the light we ourselves generate from darkness through darkness, having long navigated darkness. We are closer to arriving in our ancestral island womb, where extinct and endangered souls run rampant and incarnate. They too have long navigated darkness. Emerging from the trenches, we rise from the abyss. The Atlantic blue spreads shallow, turns tropical turquoise in the 75 miles left to the shores of her green light. We arrive with the stench of seaweed still stuck to our skin, scales and gills still in place. We, another interocean cosmic marine species of colonial refugees, emerge like mermaids from the sea. The waters part, paths clear, still dripping salt water. The children of a charco line up to re-enter her womb. They sense us from a mile away. We won't blend in. We are not here to hide. Many won't embrace us. Instead, side-eye us suspiciously. Back in our home communities with the passing of time, many will cast us aside as out of sight, out of mind. Of those who continue to check in periodically, most will be concerned more for our financial state than with the state of our mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. Some will cast us off as crazy and irresponsible, as putting ourselves and our children at risk, wondering why some of us secured U.S. degrees only to later flee. Stateside amenities keep them lulled and asleep to the reality that although Puerto Rico has yet to achieve liberation, they too are yet to be free. Rejected by both sides, we, the children of El Charco, flee. Arrive to fuse all shores of our diaspora nation of water borders that flow fluid like her children. We rematriate. We enter the womb to heal our own wombs, our collective womb. We come to collect lost parts of ourselves towards wholeness, to heal the trauma of our conquered past, the trauma of displacement, to join the endangered and the extinct, like the Tainos, the manatees, the parrots that persist. We, like animals, like plants, come from life. We come to overturn genocide, to repopulate our depopulated lands. We come to mend missing parts of a circle broken. We come to complete the circle working collaboratively towards our collective liberation. The children of El Charco are a lost mermaid tribe, dispersed by conquest. Our gills and scales concealed by colonialism, submerged by hurricanes, by floods, by injustice. We went afloat and rose again. We are called back to the water to cross waters. Some of us are called south. Some of us are called north. Some east, some west, some sit peacefully at the center. Some of us cross waters to deliver supplies and lift spirits and return to our base. Still weaving nomadic roadmaps across lands and waters in zigzags, triangles, spirals, and concentric circles like our ancestors carved onto stone, onto clay, onto lands and waters. We are the amphibious shape shifters crossing lands, seas, dimensions. We have always stayed, never left. We have always traveled, never stayed in one place. We are cosmic spirits whose essence is most embodied by the water that flows between us, around us, in us, and through us. We are all molecules of the same elements, gravitating more efficiently as we elevate to vibrate at the same phenomenal frequency. 5 years rematriated, May 2019. Rematriating Borikén, recorded on March 28, 2022.
Stay tuned for more on the project and the portrait series. Gracias. This is Yasmín Hernández.